How are you feeling after the weekend anyway?
You're buoyed up by the result and encouraged about how much more we've got still within us.
Yeah. What about yourself in general, lad?
All right. Yeah, like I think I'm never too far away from the lads, right? In terms of feeling same but for different reasons. So it was a bit of a shock, the intensity and the physicality of the first 20, 30 minutes, having not played anyone of any real calibre for a few weeks. I found the first week a bit of a shock in terms of the workload coming back into the Prem and the curveballs that you have to catch, manage. When you're in peacetime, everyone's all right. Like things just kind of flow. People take things in the stride. When there's games on the line, people's sense of self becomes heightened, and you're dealing with a lot more. So the week was like manic, even though I'd tried to shelve a lot. So I'd come into the weekend, I was like, geez, it's going to be like this. And I thought the lads felt it for the same but different. So I've got the second week, you're just a little bit more like, right, now we're into it. Now this is it. You know what I mean? It's like the first week back at school, and you're like, oh, it's a shock, and then you're all right, aren't you? Like you're like, right, this is what it's about. So getting used to it.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, I had the opposite experience. I used to be a teacher.
Oh, yeah, go on.
I was the other way around. So don't worry. But I was going to just start off by kind of asking you about. It's kind of a basic question, but what kind of pleased you about your performance at the weekend? Like, what can you see as a positive going forward?
Yeah, first half attack. How clinical we were, how sharp the backs looked. Yeah, which was kind of represented by the efficiency in opposition's red zone, whatever you want to call it. And second half defence, because we made 248 tackles by our stats, which is like off the charts. To put it into perspective, we made 75 tackles 2 weeks before that and 85 tackles a week before. So you're quadrupling your tackle count or tripling your tackle count. That's why they felt a bit tired.
Yeah, and then the other kind of view on that was obviously being there and watching it myself. Like,
oh, did he come down? Yeah.
Pardon?
Did he come down? Yeah.
I was down there at the end. You might not have noticed me, wee small English lad. Like, but no, I was going to ask, like, where do you think the improvements needed? Because I haven't watched the second half. It was a wee bit kind of stale between both sides for the majority of it until the last 10 minutes. But what's your kind of view on it?
Well, I think the obvious thing, set piece. The obvious fix is hit your line outs. And at the very least, parity at scrums. You know, not giving away 2 penalties on your own ball. The momentum shift and the territorial shift from that is huge when you're 5 metres out from their line. So just with that possession, we would have looked to put a few more points on the board. And then you know, it was a forced offload here, the odd knock on, and then a little bit of a discipline at the breakdown. So just a bit more ball retention, I would say, if we can respect the ball a bit more in the right areas. Win it first off, respect it. Secondly, we should be coming away with more points, Brendan. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. And then kind of moving forward now to what you're kind of expecting for this weekend against Leicester. Obviously, man like yourself, you've done your due diligence on the opposition. What can you see as kind of an element to exploit? Because I've watched the Exeter game as well. Not the Exeter, the Bristol Bears game as well. And where do you see where you can maybe target them?
What Bristol did well was force them into errors through intensity, like line speed, intensity, defensive intensity. You know, not just too dissimilar to what South Africa ended up doing to France. You know, consistent, aggressive defence, which causes a frontline team like Leicester, who rely on that kind of collision dominance around the corner, just to check the man and take their eye off the ball, or to check their forward momentum onto the ball, because they know that they've got heat coming. So I think, but that's across the board. I just don't think Leicester, having not played anyone of real calibre, we're used to that intensity of line speed again at the weekend. So they'll fix that with their depth and timing. They'll fix that, but still we need to be there.
Yeah.
On that front. There's not a lot of chinks to the game. They're very well drilled, very well structured team who understand the necessities of what makes them very competitive. So, like, in many ways, they're similar to us. You know, there's going to be a set piece battle, right? And to say that's a weakness, it's not a weakness, but you just got to win or get more dominance in the mauls and the scrums over the course of 80 than what they do. And it's the same with the collisions. Just got to win more of the collisions over the 80 minutes. It's not a target area, so to speak, but if you don't do and win those two things, which are like the core of this very well-structured physical team, then you're invariably going to come off with the result that you don't want.
Yeah, and I know, as you say, it's very early on, obviously one game and you've only kind of had warm-up, all this kind of thing. But kind of over the week, you've been just looking at the kind of Premiership and the results going on, and you would have obviously been aware of what was going on. Did you see any early signs of any kind of front runners going out for the campaign?
Oh, I've looked a little bit at the results, but it's just such early days. You do get these kind of freakish results early on. Whilst everyone's very strong, or some teams are very strong, other teams are weak, and it levels out. It just levels out. Usually around Christmas time, but because we started late, it's going to be around just before the Six Nations, I reckon. End of January, when you'll start to see who's going to come through. Like you really can't call it until around that time, I don't think. And even then, there's teams who have been finished who were like eighth, like Leicester were, who with a late surge can make it to the top. But the wheat tends to separate itself from the chaff. Think like 4 months in, so October, November, December, January, that'd be about right.
Yeah, no worries. To be honest, as I say, like the only last kind of thing I want to ask about was kind of what would your take be on the Exeter Saracens game, being obviously a former Saracens man?
I would say a one-off, knowing, there's maybe, I mean, a one-off for Saracens, maybe not for Exeter. Like, they've been winning like that week in, week out for the last 5 weeks. They've put some good work into a side but maybe some people might have underestimated. Obviously, they knew what they had. In terms of the strength and the depth of squad, well enough to let some of their bigger names go, and they've hit the deck running, haven't they, with that result? But like I say, that is part of the course for what they've been doing week in, week out over the Prem Cup. But for Saracens, like there's too many good people in that organisation for it to be something that's commonplace.
Yeah. No, honestly, Alex, thank you very much for your time.
Not at all. Oh, cheers, Brendan.
It was lovely meeting you on the weekend there.
Yeah, no, of course I did.
All the best for this weekend.
All right, good man. Cheers, Brendan. Take care, mate.
Thanks, bye.
Paul.
How are you, Alex?
It's just me and you, mate. It's solo. Just yeah.
What's going on? There must be a World Cup semi-final coming up.
There's that. Yeah, there is that. Yeah. I'm boring. People are fed up of listening to me, I think. Like, this is.
No, crikey.
So,
no.
How are you getting on? Have you had a good week?
Yeah, not bad, thanks you.
Yeah.
Had a good Sunday with good narrow win.
Yeah, stressy. Yeah, good Sunday, and felt like they got to. That's the challenge. Turn it around, innit, in 6 days against a team who's going to be hurting and angry and hungry. Like you gotta pick up the challenge and go again, haven't you?
That's the thing, isn't it? It's going to be relentless now. It's 5 home wins over the weekend. Is that the sort of key, maybe, Alex, to this season, that like you and Saracens did last year, pick up those away wins and getting in the...
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, every win counts, but you've got to certify your home wins, haven't you? It's just, I think you start the season, crowd behind you, first game jitters, not staying in your own bed potentially, and all of that. It probably has a bigger effect, I would say, early on than it would later on in the season when you're into grooves and you're finding form.
Yeah. I mean, last week you were talking about, hopes for the season, but evolving your game,
Yeah.
keeping what physicality, your set pieces, and all that. But just adding a couple of layers, such as finishing off in attack. And you look at the way South Africa beat France on Saturday.
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking of? Because they're your stereotypical, big physical set piece of team, kicking team. They didn't just beat France; they outscored them on tries and almost outwitted them. Is that what you sort of got in mind?
We were actually, yes, I guess looking back at that game, it reaffirmed the importance of some of those fundamentals which I feel are aligned with South Africa. I loved watching France. I loved how they kept the ball quick and live, and it was kind of rugby of a different level. The skill level was ridiculous, and it was so unstructured, that's so difficult to defend, and that's brilliant. But then I was more excited about the nature of how South Africa won it, how much belief they had in the systems, how much they stuck to plan, and lent back into what their strengths were. So we have been trying to evolve our game, probably along the lines of the Toulouse kind of Saracens. Can we do more on turnovers and go from anywhere if it's on, and making sure we make the right decisions? And then I watched that South Africa game. I'm like, do we need to? Do we have to? I don't know if I've answered your question there. If we look at our game, we saw some enterprising play, didn't we, in that first half?
Yeah.
Right, whether or not that had an effect on our energy levels, because you end up running further in attack, you end up putting more numbers to break down, you have to realign in attack, you don't in defence. So although people get energy from having the ball because they're playing, realistically, physiologically, you're using up more energy.
Yeah.
And that in turn has an effect on your big knackers, which I've mentioned before, on your set piece, on your kick chase ability. So this is all quite a fine balancing act of taking opportunities when they're on, but not burning yourself out early on.
Yeah. I mean, you've had a lot of South Africans at sales. You've still got a few, Alex. What is it about their mentality that sort of marks them out from others?
Well, physically, they're just a bigger species of humans, right? They are like bigger boned, thicker through the chest a lot of the time. That's one thing, but then. You've seen loads of players who are big, aren't you? And like train like Taj and playing like Jane kind of thing. These guys have the ones that we have anyway. I'm trying to put it into words. I'm not quite as good as you, Paul. They're more men of action than they are of words, right? That's for certain across the board. They have a greater slant and emphasis on respect, on earning respect, playing for respect, maintaining respect off their peers, I think. Than maybe culturally what some of the lads who have been brought up through the English system. So there's an altruistic nature to that which drives them, which is enables them to be more consistently motivated and have greater intent. So there's that as well. I spoke to Cobus Visa to yesterday, and just to give an example on this. And like, this is his first game back in 9 months. He's played 20 minutes last week, but it wasn't against anyone where he was physically tested. And he's like foaming at the mouth in the week, and he's talking a lot during the week about the physical intent. He talked a lot at half time about not taking an inch, not falling off collisions, and I thought for the most part he was magnificent. He was like, you just would not want to be in the same 5 metre channel as him with or without the ball, right? Because he's winning that collision. That's how he was. And then I saw him over a coffee. I'm like, how are you? And he's like, I'm really disappointed. I'm like, what? I'm really disappointed in myself, Al. You know, after what I said at half time, I don't think I lived up to it. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm going to put it right this weekend. And this is on the back of a good win and you know, the first big performance in 9 months. And he's like lambasting himself for not living up to his words. I'm like, well, so what's the alternative? You're not going to speak? He goes, no, I want to put it right. So that's just a little internal reflection on one of the guys from his game at the weekend. So he's, and it kind of highlights everything I've said there in terms of what they're about.
Because it's so, you know, you look at both New Zealand and South Africa.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I thought Ireland and France would have won those games based on what had gone on before. Ireland, 17 wins in a row, France 18 home wins in a row. And they didn't just match them physically, but it seemed mentally, both New Zealand and South Africa just had the edge on.
I couldn't believe the response. Like South Africa looked almost out of it, didn't they? Like around the 20-minute mark or whatever, and then they got that try back from the crossfield up and under, and you're like, they're way back in this. And they never, regardless of points, they never seem like they are derailing or spiralling in terms of the decisions they make, both teams. And that's a really, it's probably the best quality you can have that. You know, all the good teams do, but your ability to believe, to either double down on your system or find a way to win. And I think in that order of priority, Paul, like, right, this hasn't worked, let's just do it better by doing it this way. Or this hasn't worked, you know, it fails again, we've got to do it differently by doing it this way. And that complete buy-in, and either go after that, either one, to change tactics or to double down on the initial tactics is something what makes them strong. South Africa just doubled down, didn't they? They just put bigger men on, did more of those crossfield kicks, went far harder off the line, and you're like, well, and over time that kind of pressure on pressure just told a thought.
Yeah. That's a hell of a win, that, because everything was in France's favour. They're the hosts.
Yeah.
Great home win run, noisy crowd, and generally, you know, referees would tend to favour the home side in that, but it just didn't happen. I mean, it speaks volumes for those South Africans that they could win that game. Yeah,
I was dead impressed. That's one of my favourite games for a long time. That I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the New Zealand game was a good one, but
yeah, I mean, I've got to watch it, Paul. I must have watched double figures of games over the weekend, and that was the one game I had to go out for a birthday meal for a friend, and I missed the game. Unfortunately, so I'll re-watch that semi-final because there was grand finals on as well, weren't there? Wigan, our friends Wigan Warriors won. Obviously the other semi-finals and all our games and stuff. We've got to watch our game twice, so yeah, I would have been rugbyed out if I'd watched that one as well, I'm sure. But I heard it was mega, and it came down to 30 phases and stuff. So
yeah, and again, New Zealand, you associate them with keeping the ball, movements, improvisation, but their defence wasn't like it.
Yeah, I heard it changed up as well. Like I got all the text back from the coaches because they just hung off, didn't they? And the wingers won halves, and they let them play and gave them the outside rather than went for them. You know, which is what South Africa did. And a team like Ireland, if you go, they'll just bring you on and pick you off. And seemingly that's what that New Zealand just spooked them with a bit of a change in tactic, but were super aggressive at the breakdown thereafter. So you know. This is just the feedback I've got, but I trust the people who were sending me the text through. It's all my coaching staff.
Yeah, no, they will. I mean, Sam Kane, that's best I've seen him for a long time. And obviously Surveyor, they got in that back row. And you take away Ireland's strength then, don't you? Which is very much all the phase play they have.
Yeah, that's it.
Turnover after turnover.
There's that expression that you make someone play left-handed.
Yeah.
You know, can you force them into playing left-handed? And then what's their plan B? You know, South Africa did it to France. It took them a bit of time, but France ended up snatching and offloading too much at the line when they hadn't won collisions, didn't they? And they started losing possession in that last 20-30 minutes. Made them play left-handed, yeah.
Yeah, so there's fascinating games. I mean, the other two, with England, Fiji, Wales, Argentina, was almost exciting, but totally different. Again, totally different. That sort of huge intensity, not quite there.
Yeah. I agree on that count.
But you know, for the semi-final, I mean, South Africa won't be writing England off by any means.
Well, at the peril, you know, England did it, didn't they? Yeah. 4 years ago against New Zealand.
Yeah.
This thing, like the it's consistency of intent and mentality and physicality is the hardest thing to come by. The odd one off, do you know what I mean? Like, for enough motivation, for the enough, if the reason why is big enough, any man would get into a ring with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Right? They would.
Yeah.
They would. And they give it a go, and maybe 1 times out of 100, with through a lucky punch, they might actually land one or not get killed. But to do it week in, week out is very difficult. That's when you get into the realms of, you know, having real understanding of drivers and purpose. Yeah. England don't have to do it week in, week out, do they? They've got to step in. They've got to step into the ring, yeah. This time.
Between a cup competition and a league, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is it. And it's interesting what you say, because you go back to the professional era, you know, teams who've beaten the All Blacks in the World Cup, which they were always number one in the world, always the best team.
Yeah.
It's such an effort. You had in '99, you had France in that epic semi-final. Following week, they didn't turn up in the final. In 2003, the Aussies beat them in the semi against the odds, lost the final. 2007, France beat them in the quarters, lost the semi-final to England, and in 19, you had England whacking them in the semis, losing the final. It's almost as if what you're saying, that huge effort it takes.
Yeah.
So you sort of spent yourself.
Yeah, and that might, you know, maybe there was something in that with Ireland, having won that South Africa game. Like, that was pool stages, and they still had a few more to go, didn't they? Like, it's game in, game out. But yeah, that is it, Paul. Like, and how you can get a team to consistently get themselves up to that, you know, to find a mental edge every week, because we know that if you're able to tap into those emotions through neurology, actually neuroscience, you access your behaviours not on a cognitive level. I shouldn't, because none of it makes sense, does it, running into people for whack? But because you want to, because everything, every part, every sinew of your body is driven to do it. You've got a big enough motivation to do it, and that's emotions. That's something that South Africa are very good at, really good at, and speaking to them about their national team, that they heap the nation's expectation on them. They heap it on them, Paul. Like there's a whole nation who are backing you, who depend on you to paint South Africa in a good light. All of that, like they truly put the heartstrings week in, week out, but it works for them. You know what I mean? And it can work over short. It can't work over a long period of time. You just burn out. But over a World Cup, you can.
You can, yeah. I remember when I was a kid, you know, growing up in Wales, Pontypool were always week in, week out. They were the team to beat.
Yeah.
In the Welsh Cup, and they get beaten.
Yeah.
You know, they perform 88% every week, but on that one cup week, a team could reach 90%. Which Pontypool would just stay the same all the way.
Yeah. You have a bit of that with the Welsh national team, don't you, I guess? Not the most successful club teams, but they grow again in the red jersey, don't they? I think that's a beautiful thing, that, isn't it? Because it shows that people have a sense of purpose, or an idea that something's bigger than them. Like, it's bigger than them. And then you get that sense of higher purpose, which is much more of a bigger motivator than this, you know, or how you look on social media, or just accolades. This is bigger than accolades, you know, for South Africans. It's about the nation.
Yeah, and do you hope that, because it has been such a good World Cup in terms of the rugby, that can have a spin-off for the English game?
Oh right, yeah, of course I do. Truly hope so. Yeah, I think there's always that, because kids have watched it, haven't they? So you always. It's the same in any sport, isn't it? Like, You saw it with the triathlons, with the Brown brothers, like everyone was doing triathlons. You know, as soon as started doing well at cycling, loads of kids do cycling now, like, and I'm hoping that this, well, the women's football, like, look at that. Like, so I'm hoping that this will just spur on the rugby, like, and get some more people through the gates and get some more interest and grow it at grassroots. Like, I hope kids look at it and thinking, that's the game for me. For as much for the values that we just talked about as for the nature of being fast and dodging people and tackling and all that stuff that they see on field.
Yeah, and as a coach, have you picked up much from it?
Yeah, like exactly what we talked about in terms of South Africa, that sometimes it's just the right thing to do in terms of growing a game is just do what you do, but do it better.
And someone like Faf, I mean, you know him well, obviously, but you know, on the bench for that big game, you might think there's no other joint, but he came on and got straight into it.
He did, didn't he? He was everywhere, like so annoying around the breakdown and abrasive and aggressive. He got the last turnover, did he? I think he got the last turnover. Or was that Quagga? I don't know. He was into it, one. He's that kind of the faff that we know. Yeah.
Yeah, and Big Eben Etzebeth as well.
Jeez, yeah. I mean, that's that mentality, innit? Like, get Simbin, comes on and does that. You're like, right, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
He could have in that stage gone under, and it just came on even more enthused, to put it right. And how well did he speak afterwards? Like, I mean, sure there are bad-mannered, rude South Africans out there. I mean, there must be, because there's a song written about them, isn't there? Spit and Image song. But I haven't met one. Most of them are very polite and respectful, and yeah, they just come across. They're just a good race of people. I like working with them. Quite simple people.
Yeah, and the other thing with that knock on he had. I mean, he had the presence of mind to.
Oh, geez, yeah. Try saving.
Put his palm backwards. I mean, that's that could have been a penalty try, couldn't it? But because he did that,
yeah,
he flicked it back. That was, again in the heat of the moment. That's good thinking.
That he's special, isn't he? Like, not just is he super physical because he's a giant, but the way he moves and his speed of thought, like that's why he's one of the world's, if not the world's best lock at the moment. You just don't get all of those qualities in one person.